The chain around my neck pulls tight the moment I try to stand, and a sharp jolt runs down my spine before I even understand why. I have learned not to fight it. Fighting only makes the collar tighter. I press my back against the cold metal wall of the cage and wait, the way I have waited every single day since they brought me here. The room smells of oil and fear. Rows of cages line the walls, each one holding a creature from a different world, each one waiting for the same thing. Buyers walk the aisles slowly, tapping on the bars, checking teeth, checking claws, checking whatever makes a creature worth its price. I keep my eyes down. Looking up costs too much here. Footsteps stop in front of my cage. I do not need to look up to know what is coming. A guard's voice, flat and bored, describes me like I am a piece of machinery. Strong bite, fast reflexes, good for labor or for fighting pits, depending on what the buyer wants. I have heard this speech so many times that the words no longer sting. They just sit in my chest like stones. Then a new voice cuts through the noise, and it is different from every voice I have heard in this place. It does not sound bored. It does not sound cruel. It simply asks a question. Why is she chained so low that she cannot even stand straight? The guard laughs, the kind of laugh people use when they think a question is foolish. Standard procedure, he says. Keeps the stock calm. I feel the stranger step closer. My whole body tenses, ready for the usual mockery. Ready for a hand banging on the bars just to watch me flinch. But nothing like that happens. Instead, I hear the creak of knees bending, and the soft sound of someone lowering themselves down to the floor, right beside my cage, at the same level as me. No one has ever done that before. I lift my eyes just enough to see him. A man, plain clothes, no weapon in his hand, sitting cross-legged in the dirt outside my cage as if the filth on that floor did not matter to him at all. His face is calm, his eyes are steady. He looks at me the way someone looks at another person, not at a possession. I am not going to hurt you, he says quietly. I bare my teeth. It is the only answer I trust. He does not flinch back the way the guards do when they want an excuse to punish me. He simply nods, like he expected exactly that reaction, and says, "That is fair. You do not know me yet." The guard behind him snorts and warns him that I have already hurt someone who got too close. The man just says, "Has she?" in a tone that sounds like he is filing that information away for later, not against me, but against the people who put me in this cage in the first place. He stays there far longer than any visitor ever has. He does not offer scraps of food the way careless buyers sometimes do, tossing them in just to watch me scramble. He simply sits there, close enough that I can feel warmth coming off him, occasionally saying something quiet, not really speaking to me, just letting me hear the sound of his voice without asking anything back. I do not know exactly when my body stops bracing for a strike. I do not know exactly when I stop baring my teeth, but at some point I find myself leaning toward the bars instead of away from them, and nothing bad happens, and some small part of me that I thought had died a long time ago quietly wakes up and wonders if this is allowed. Then the lights above us flicker, and a siren begins to wail through the entire building. The guard straightens immediately, one hand going to the device on his belt. Every other guard in the room does the same. Buyers start moving toward the exits in a hurry, glancing up at the flashing red lights along the ceiling. I do not know what the siren means, but I know fear when I see it. And every single guard in that room looks afraid. The man beside my cage does not run. He turns his head toward the nearest guard and asks what is happening. The guard barely answers before sprinting away, shouting something about a containment failure 2 levels below us. The word containment sends a cold shiver through my chest, because in a building full of cages, containment failure means something has escaped, and whatever it is, it must be far more dangerous than any of us locked in these cages, or the guards would not be running. The siren grows louder. Somewhere down a corridor, metal groans, and the whole floor trembles slightly under my paws. Dust drifts down from the ceiling. The lights along the walls switch from white to a deep flashing red, and a mechanical voice begins repeating an evacuation order in a language I barely understand, though the tone alone tells me enough. The man beside my cage stands up fast, checking around him. Most of the guards have already abandoned their posts, chasing after whatever escaped, leaving rows of locked cages behind with no one guarding them at all. He looks at the lock on my cage, then back toward the corridor where the guards vanished, and I can see him making a decision in real time. He crouches again, this time examining the lock mechanism instead of my face. His fingers move quickly over a small device at his belt, and I realize he is not simply visiting this place out of curiosity. He came prepared for something like this. "Hold still," he says, and there is no fear in his voice at all, only focus. A spark flashes at the lock, and the collar around my neck loosens with a sharp click. For the first time since I arrived here, the chain falls slack. I do not move at first, unsure if this is real, unsure if standing up will trigger another punishment. He notices my hesitation and speaks again, his voice steady despite the siren screaming around us. You are allowed to stand up now. No one is going to hurt you for it. I rise slowly, my legs shaking from disuse, and for the first time I am taller than the man kneeling beside me. He looks up at me without a trace of fear, only a kind of quiet relief, as if freeing me mattered more to him than his own safety in this collapsing building. The floor shudders again, harder this time, and a section of the ceiling near the far end of the room caves in with a crash of metal and sparks. Smoke begins curling along the corridor behind us. Whatever escaped down below is causing serious damage, and the entire structure feels like it is beginning to fail piece by piece. He grabs a strap of fabric hanging from his own jacket and ties it quickly around my front leg, not as a restraint, but as something to hold on to in the chaos. Stay close to me, he says. I know a way out that the guards will not think of, because it is not built for guards. It is built for supply crews like me. We move together through the smoke, past rows of empty cages where other captives are pressing against their bars, watching us with wide, hopeful eyes. I feel a pull inside my chest, a need to help them too, but the man beside me seems to read the thought on my face. There is no time to open every cage by hand, he says, his voice tight with urgency, but there is something we can do. He pulls a small device from his jacket, presses a few buttons, and a soft chime echoes from every cage along the corridor at once. One by one, the locks release, and the doors swing open. Startled creatures stumble out into the smoke, disoriented but free, scattering toward the corridors ahead of us. I feel something like relief wash through me, mixed with fear for what might come next. We press forward through the shaking building, the alarm blaring without pause, red light flashing across every wall. A section of pipe overhead bursts open, releasing a hiss of pressurized steam that forces us both to duck low and move fast along the wall to avoid it. My paws slip on the wet metal floor, and for a moment I stumble, but his hand catches my shoulder and steadies me before I fall. Careful, he says. Almost there. We reach a heavy door at the end of the corridor, sealed shut with a status light glowing red. He taps a code into the panel beside it, but nothing happens. The door remains locked, and behind us, the sound of collapsing metal grows louder, closer, as if the damage from below is spreading upward through the entire structure. He tries the code again, faster this time, but the panel simply flashes red and beeps in refusal. I can hear frustration creeping into his breathing, though his voice stays calm when he speaks. The system must have locked down when the alarm triggered, he says. We need another way through. I look around the corridor and notice a narrow vent near the base of the wall, barely large enough for a small creature to fit through, certainly too small for him, but not too small for me. I press my snout against it, feeling the pull of air rushing through from the other side, which likely means it leads somewhere outside this sealed section. He notices where I am looking and immediately understands. There is hesitation on his face, the kind that comes from not wanting to send someone he barely knows into an unknown space alone. But the corridor behind us groans again, sparks raining down from a broken conduit, and there is no time left for hesitation. If you can get through and find a way to open this door from the other side, he says, we might both make it out, but only if you want to try. I will not force you into anything. No one has ever asked me if I wanted to try something in this place. Every action of mine here has always been forced, chained, and punished if refused. Standing in that smoke-filled corridor, given an actual choice for what feels like the first time in years, I decide. I press through the vent, feeling the tight metal scrape against my sides as I squeeze forward into darkness. The sound of the alarm grows muffled behind me, replaced by the low hum of machinery somewhere ahead. I crawl forward, following the pull of moving air, my heart pounding harder with every passing second. The vent opens into a small maintenance space on the other side of the locked door, dim and quiet compared to the chaos I left behind. A control panel glows faintly against the far wall, clearly connected to the door mechanism. I approach carefully, unsure how to operate something built for hands rather than paws, but desperation makes me clever. I press my weight against a large lever beside the panel, and with a groan of resisting metal, it shifts downward. The door on the other side slides open with a heavy grinding sound, and I see him standing there, smoke curling around his shoulders, his face breaking into a look of pure relief when he sees me on the other side. You did it, he says, stepping through quickly before the door can seal again. That took real courage. We continue moving, faster now, weaving through corridors that grow darker with every passing minute as more sections of the building lose power. Distant crashes echo from somewhere behind us, growing less frequent, as if the worst of the destruction is finally slowing. But the danger is far from over, because ahead of us, a group of guards appears at the end of the hallway, weapons raised, clearly searching for escaped stock rather than helping anyone escape. He pulls me quickly into a side passage before they can spot us, pressing a finger to his lips even though I cannot fully understand the gesture, only the meaning behind it. We wait in silence as their footsteps pass by, shouting orders to each other about search patterns and containment zones, completely unaware of how close they came to finding us. Once their voices fade, he leads me down another narrow passage, one lined with pipes and wiring rather than cages, clearly a route meant only for workers rather than visitors or stock. My legs ache from the unfamiliar strain of walking freely after so long confined, but the fear pushing me forward is stronger than the exhaustion. We reach a large door marked with symbols I do not recognize, though the design looks different from anything else in this building, sleeker, newer. He presses his palm against a scanner beside it, and the door slides open smoothly, revealing a small transport vessel waiting inside a private docking bay, untouched by the chaos spreading through the rest of the structure. Two more figures are already inside the vessel, a woman with short hair checking instruments along the control panel, and a younger man securing supply crates against the wall. They both look up in surprise when we enter, and the woman immediately asks what happened, her eyes widening at the sight of me standing beside him instead of chained somewhere in a cage. There was no time to explain everything, he says quickly. The lower levels failed. Something got loose. Half the stock cages are open now, and guards are chasing shadows instead of doing their jobs. We need to leave immediately. The woman does not argue. She simply nods, moves to the controls, and within moments the entire vessel shudders gently as it detaches from the docking clamps. Through a small window, I catch a final glimpse of the building we escaped, smoke rising from broken sections along its side, emergency lights flashing weakly against the darkening sky beyond it. The vessel pulls away smoothly, gaining distance from the structure with each passing second. I feel my whole body finally begin to relax, the tension of years slowly loosening from muscles that have been coiled tight for so long I had almost forgotten what calm felt like. He sits down across from me inside the vessel, not above me this time, but simply across, at an equal distance, the way one person sits near another. He studies my face for a long moment before speaking again, his voice softer now that the danger has passed. "You do not have to decide anything today," he says. "Where you want to go, what you want to do next, none of that needs an answer right now. All I ask is that you let us help you heal first." I do not have words to answer him yet, not in a language he could understand, but something in my chest loosens further at his words. A knot I did not realize I had been carrying for years finally beginning to release. The woman at the controls glances back at us with a small, warm smile, introducing herself simply as Grace, gesturing toward the younger man securing the crates as Oliver. Neither of them looks at me the way the guards or buyers did. They look at me the way he looked at me from the very first moment, like I am someone, rather than something. Over the following days aboard that vessel, I slowly begin to understand more of their language, piecing together words from context and tone, rather than any lesson. I learned that his name is Daniel, and that he had no official reason to be near those cages at all, only a habit of noticing things that other people chose to walk past without a second glance. I learned that the creature which escaped from containment far below the building had triggered a chain reaction of failures throughout the entire structure, damage severe enough that authorities later confirmed the whole facility could not be repaired and would need to be shut down permanently. I learned that dozens of other captives from that same building were later found and given real homes, scattered across worlds that Daniel and people like him worked quietly to connect with organizations built specifically to help creatures like me. I choose a name for myself eventually, something simple that feels like it belongs to me rather than something stamped onto a collar by someone else. I choose to be called Kira, a small word that Grace helps me pronounce properly, and every time someone uses it, I feel a small spark of pride that no chain or cage ever managed to take from me completely. Months later, sitting on solid ground under an open sky for the first time since my capture, I find myself thinking back to that moment in the smoke-filled corridor, back to the very first time someone lowered himself down to my level instead of standing over me. I think about how easily that moment could have gone differently, how easily fear or exhaustion could have stopped either of us from trusting the other enough to escape together. Daniel visits sometimes, though his work keeps him traveling most of the year, quietly checking on captives found in similar situations across distant stations and structures. Each time he visits, he sits beside me the same way he did that very first day, never above me, always beside me, and I think that simple choice says more about who he is than any grand speech ever could. I do not know what it is about his kind that makes so many of them unable to walk past a cage without stopping. I do not know what shaped that instinct in them, what history or struggle taught enough of them to see worth in creatures the rest of the galaxy dismissed as nothing more than stock. But I know that instinct saved my life on a day when everything around me was collapsing, and I know that I will carry the memory of that quiet choice for as long as I live. I was treated like an animal for years inside that cage. Then one human sat down beside me, and everything I believed about my place in this world quietly began to change.